Hey guys, back with another video, and today I figure we could talk about Handsome Jack and the possibility of whether we will see Handsome Jack in Borderlands 3. Now, in this video, I will talk about Handsome Jack's involvement in the events that transpire across all of the Borderlands games. I'll talk about a few of Handsome Jack's noteworthy body doubles, and I will then talk about some ways that I could see Handsome Jack appearing in Borderlands 3 or whatever the next game in the franchise is called. But I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and discuss Handsome Jack's involvement across all of the Borderlands games, starting with Borderlands 1. Now, while it's commonly known that Jack was the main antagonist in Borderlands 2, Jack is involved with some parts of the plot from the very first Borderlands. After all, Jack imprisoned his daughter, Angel, within Control Core Angel on Pandora, and Angel was responsible for convincing the first 4 Vault Hunters from the very first game to seek out the Vault Key and open the very first vault. As a result, Lilith, Roland, Brick, and Mordecai encountered the Destroyer and managed to defeat it. And while it's true that Jack isn't mentioned in the very first game, it is revealed in Borderlands 2 that he had some part in the events that play out in Borderlands 1. In Borderlands the pre-sequel, Jack enlists the help of another group of Vault Hunters, and this includes Athena from Borderlands 1's Colonel Knox DLC, the Firestone Claptrap from Borderlands 1 and 2, Nisha, aka the Sheriff of Lynchwood from Borderlands 2, Wilhelm, who is a boss from Borderlands 2's main questline, Jack the Doppelganger, who is a Handsome Jack body double, and Aurelia, who is Sir Hammerlock's sister. And together, this new group of Vault Hunters would help Jack retake the Hyperion moonbase from the Dahl military. And after defeating Zarpedon, the leader of the Dahl forces, it's revealed that Jack had managed to salvage the Eye of the Destroyer from Borderlands 1 and made the Destroyer's eye a component in his Eye of Helios laser. And after Jack stated his intentions on how he would use the laser, Lilith, Roland, and Moxie decided to betray him. As you can imagine, Jack was very upset at Lilith, Roland, and Moxie for betraying him the way that they did on Helios, and Jack vowed revenge. However, he ultimately went to Virago Solitude, passed the remaining Dahl forces, and entered the Vault. There, he saw visions of the warrior and became hell-bent on awakening the warrior for his purposes. Enter the events that take place in Borderlands 2. In Borderlands 2, Jack encounters a new group of Vault Hunters, which include Axton, Salvador, Maya, Zero, as well as Krieg and Gage. He managed to collect the primary 4 Vault Hunters on a cargo train and blows it up, starting off the events of Borderlands 2. And throughout Borderlands 2, the new group of Vault Hunters seeks to reunite the 4 original Vault Hunters from Borderlands 1, rebuild the Crimson Raiders, and take fight to Hyperion. Things start to come to a head, though, when the Vault Hunters assault the bunker in Thousand Cuts. During this exchange, it's discovered that Angel is a siren and is charging the Vault Key for Jack so Jack can awaken the warrior and use it to control and destroy Pandora. Angel requests the Vault Hunters to destroy the Iridium injectors powering her cell so the Vault Key can be obtained safely. Unfortunately, Roland gets killed and Lilith is captured by Handsome Jack, and Jack gets the Vault Key. Fortunately, the Vault Hunters are able to escape Control Core Angel, and they fight their way to the vault through Heroes Pass, and finally encounter Handsome Jack, who manages to awaken the warrior. Just like the original Vault Hunters killed the Destroyer in the first game, the second group of Vault Hunters ends up destroying the warrior in Borderlands 2. And at this point, the player can kill Jack, or let Lilith kill Jack. Either way, Handsome Jack dies at the very end of Borderlands 2. While more of a spin-off, there's also Tales from the Borderlands. During the events of Borderlands the pre-sequel, an NPC named Professor Nakayama just so happened to create an AI, which later becomes known as the Handsome AI in Tales from the Borderlands that is meant to emulate Handsome Jack. This was done again as a means to preserve Handsome Jack, and Reese, one of the main protagonists of Tales from the Borderlands, integrates a Hyperion computer chip that he finds into his cybernetics and discovers the Handsome AI. Now, throughout Tales from the Borderlands, the player is trying to recover the various pieces of the Atlas Corporation's Gortys project so they can discover the Vault of the Traveler. During the beginning of the final episode for Tales from the Borderlands, Rhys crashes the Hyperion moon base, or Helios, into Pandora and defeats Handsome Jack's AI by removing his own cybernetic implant. From here, Rhys can either choose to keep the cybernetic eye or crush it, thus determining the Handsome AI's fate. In addition to having AIs to preserve himself, Handsome Jack was also known for having body doubles as a mean to mislead would-be assassins. Jack has two noteworthy body doubles, and the one that most of you probably are familiar with is the body double that you defeat during the events of Borderlands 2. In Opportunity, the Vault Hunters are tasked with receiving a pocket watch on Handsome Jack's body double, which will allow the Vault Hunters to get past Jack's security clearance at the bunker. Now, this body double is interesting because the pocket watch produced a holographic type disguise. In fact, upon defeating this body double and taking the pocket watch, the individual reverts to their previous form, and he simply looks like a Hyperion engineer. There's also the playable character from the pre-sequel known as Jack the Doppelganger. Unlike the body double that is encountered in Opportunity in Borderlands 2, the Doppelganger was formerly known as Timothy Lawrence, and was surgically altered to look and talk like Handsome Jack. Now, it's worth mentioning that the playable body double in Borderlands the pre-sequel and the body double from Borderlands 2 aren't the same individual. Therefore, it's possible that Timothy Lawrence may still be alive during the events of Borderlands 2, and may also be alive during the events of Tales from the Borderlands. Now, you may be wondering why all of this information is important. Well, the events of the Borderlands games were mostly caused both directly and indirectly by Handsome Jack. While Jack was retconned into Borderlands 1 by some echologs in Borderlands 2, Jack was the main antagonist in Borderlands 2, he was an ally in the pre-sequel, and his AI is a relatively important character in Tales from the Borderlands. Handsome Jack is featured so prominently in the Borderlands games that it seems almost impossible that he wouldn't return in some capacity for the third game. Something else that's worth noting is that Handsome Jack is well known for having body doubles, some of which may or may not be alive after the events of Borderlands 2, and these characters have a chance in appearing in Borderlands 3. But between Handsome Jack's involvement with the plot of most of the games, and the fact that he has numerous body doubles, and he's developed AIs intended to preserve him in some way, it seems possible that Jack, or a character impersonating Handsome Jack, could appear in the next Borderlands game. The question is how and to what extent would Jack appear in the next game? One way Handsome Jack could reappear in Borderlands 3 is through Timothy the Doppelganger. While Handsome Jack himself may have been killed by Lilith, his doppelganger may live on. The only problem is that we don't really have enough information on what happened between the events of Borderlands the pre-sequel, Borderlands 2, and Tales from the Borderlands. We know that Athena and Claptrap are alive, and we have good reason to believe that Aurelia is alive. However, we don't know the fate of Jack's doppelganger, which could have ended up like Nisha the Lawbringer or Wilhelm the Enforcer. It's possible that Timothy could reappear in Borderlands 3 as an NPC that looks and sounds like Handsome Jack though, but it is hard to say what his allegiances would be, but I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't want to join the Crimson Raiders. Plus, if Athena is now a member of the Raiders, it seems like she would be willing to vouch for him. There is also the possibility that we ended up killing Timothy the Doppelganger in Borderlands 2 rather than the real Handsome Jack. While I'm not sure I entirely believe this myself, simply because Timothy had a different disposition than Handsome Jack did in Borderlands 2, it is possible that Timothy may have changed a lot between the events of Borderlands the pre-sequel and Borderlands 2. So much so that he is as vicious as Handsome Jack is. At the same time, if Jack just did send a doppelganger, why go to all of the trouble to make everyone think that you're dead? Why give up your control of the Hyperion Corporation unless you are giving it up to some kind of underling that you control? Or why risk some kind of power struggle at Hyperion if you might end up losing control of it all? Still, while I don't believe the Vault Hunters killed Timothy as opposed to the real Handsome Jack, it might be possible, and it would guarantee that Handsome Jack would return in Borderlands 3. Either way, I think it's possible for Handsome Jack to make an appearance due to the fact that he has so many body doubles, though it may not be Handsome Jack himself. There's also the possibility that the Handsome AI may reappear in Borderlands 3. While he was defeated by Rhys in Tales from the Borderlands, it's possible that Rhys may have kept the cybernetic eyepiece where the Handsome AI is stored. The issue with this is that the fate of the Handsome AI is most likely tied to that of Rhys and Fiona, who entered a vault and seemingly disappeared. Still, I suspect the fate of Rhys and Fiona will be revealed in Borderlands 3, and it's likely that they will appear in the next game as NPCs. After all, people are definitely going to want to know what happened to them in the vault. Then again, there's also the possibility that Rhys simply crushed the cybernetic eyepiece, which would make the Handsome AI unrecoverable, and would pretty much guarantee that the Handsome AI doesn't appear in Borderlands 3. I suppose a major question that we should ask is whether Handsome Jack will be the primary antagonist in Borderlands 3. While it's possible that the Vault Hunters in Borderlands 2 killed Timothy Lawrence as opposed to the real Handsome Jack, I don't think that Jack will be the primary antagonist. And while it's possible Jack may be alive somewhere in some form, or he's being impersonated by someone like Timothy Lawrence, the overarching story of Borderlands isn't really setting up a battle with Handsome Jack and Hyperion. Instead, it's looking like we're going to be doing battle with the Iridians. I think it's also important to mention that Hyperion's presence on Pandora has largely been wiped out as a result of the events that occurred during Tales from the Borderlands. Rhys ends up crashing Helios onto Pandora during Episode 5, which would have dealt a significant blow to the Hyperion Corporation. While I don't suspect they will collapse like Atlas did, I do think that Hyperion will take more of a backseat role in the next game. There's also the fact that Borderlands the pre-sequel seems to suggest that individuals can be possessed by the Iridians or Iridian technology. Colonel Zarpedon and the Lost Legion were former Dahl military soldiers that were ultimately corrupted by the Iridian technology or whatever. In fact, many of the soldiers you fight at the very end of the pre-sequel that appear in parts of Virago's Solitude appear to have allied themselves with the local Iridians. At the very end of the pre-sequel, Handsome Jack enters the vault and touches the vault symbol, which results in him seeing visions of the future and gives him the desire to awaken the warrior. Much like Zarpedon and her army, it's possible that Jack also became somewhat possessed or corrupted by this Iridian tech, and as a result, he began to mine Iridium on Pandora, use his daughter to charge the vault key, and then eventually awaken the warrior. I don't think Handsome Jack's initial goal was to do all of this, but when he was shown visions, he ultimately became indoctrinated. However, I think the most telling thing is what the mysterious being, also known as the Watcher, says at the very end of Borderlands the pre-sequel. It says, quote, "Now is not the time for bickering, Vault Hunters. War is coming, and you will need all of the Vault Hunters that you can get." This further reinforces the idea that the Vault Hunters aren't going to be fighting Handsome Jack as the main arch-villain in the next game. While Handsome Jack or an impersonator of his may appear, I suspect the larger threat is going to be either the Iridians themselves or whatever technology that the Iridians were attempting to protect in the various vaults across all of the games. After all, when a vault is usually opened, the Vault Hunters end up fighting some kind of alien entity like the Destroyer from Borderlands 1, the Warrior from Borderlands 2, or the Empyrean Sentinel from Borderlands the pre-sequel. Ultimately, I would be surprised if Handsome Jack didn't appear in some form for Borderlands 3. What I think I can be sure of is that Handsome Jack will most likely not be the primary antagonist in Borderlands 3, or whatever the next game ends up being called. While it's possible we may have killed a body double of Jack's at the end of Borderlands 2, I doubt that Handsome Jack will end up being the primary villain, simply because the pre-sequel seems to indicate that there is going to be some kind of larger scale war or larger scale conflict. Still, it's going to be interesting to see how the plot comes together for the next game, and I think to be fair, it's likely that we could see almost anything. There's a possibility that Gearbox could retcon several aspects of the plot from the previous games to incorporate some new and evil supervillain, or maybe we'll see a war with the Iridians. If you ask me, it's going to be cool, and anything could happen. But alright guys, I think that's going to wrap up this particular video. If you like this video, feel free to leave a like, click the bell to join the notification squad, and as always, take care, and I'll see you all next time.